You step onto the stone quay as the morning light spills across the Tagus, and immediately you feel it. This is not just a city, it is the center of a world in motion. The air is thick with unfamiliar scents, sharp cinnamon, crushed pepper, and something metallic beneath it all, the smell of ships and coin and salt. Before you, masts rise like a forest against the horizon, dozens upon dozens of vessels anchored in tight formation, their sails folded, but their presence overwhelming. This is Lisbon in the 1700s, and at this moment, you are standing in one of the most powerful cities on Earth. Everything here speaks of movement and exchange. You watch as cargo is hauled from the depths of ships' heavy crates, sealed chests, bundles wrapped in coarse fabric, each one carrying fragments of distant lands. Voices overlap in a constant hum, not just Portuguese, but a mixture of accents and languages. Merchants bargaining, sailors shouting, porters straining under weight. This is where continents meet, where oceans deliver their wealth, and where fortunes are made in a single transaction. You are not at the edge of Europe, you are at its gateway. As you move further along the waterfront, the scale of it begins to settle in. This is not random chaos. It is a system, a machine fueled by ambition and reach. Ships arrive from places you may never see, coastlines beyond Africa, islands deep in Asia, lands across the Atlantic, and all of it converges here, funneled into this narrow stretch of river and stone. Every crate unloaded, every coin exchanged, is part of something larger, an invisible network stretching across the globe. Lisbon does not simply participate in trade, it commands it. The city behind you rises in layers, climbing the hills in a dense cascade of rooftops and towers. From here, you can already sense the contrast. The glitter of wealth is undeniable: fine fabrics, polished metals, the occasional flash of gold, but it sits alongside something rougher, something older. The streets are alive, but they are not polished. This is a place built quickly, expanded relentlessly, shaped by opportunity more than design. And yet, that rawness only adds to its energy. You are witnessing a city at its peak, still growing, still pulling more of the world into itself. You pause for a moment and look back at the river, and it becomes clear why everything leads here. The water is not just a boundary, it is a lifeline. It connects this city to empires, to resources, to knowledge, to power. Without it, Lisbon would be just another European capital. With it, it becomes something far greater, a hub where the fate of distant regions is decided by the flow of ships and the weight of cargo. And as the sun climbs higher, casting sharper light across the harbor, the realization settles in. You are not simply observing a prosperous city. You are standing at the height of an era. This is a moment when wealth feels endless, when expansion seems unstoppable, when the world itself appears to be bending toward this single point on the map. Lisbon is not just thriving, it is dominating. But beneath that brilliance, there is a sense, almost imperceptible, that such intensity cannot last forever. For now, though, the city does not question it. It moves, it trades, it grows. And you, standing at its threshold, are witnessing the full force of an empire at its peak. A place where the world arrives, is transformed, and is sent back out again, forever changed. You step deeper into the riverfront, and the rhythm of Lisbon reveals itself, not calm, not orderly, but alive with relentless motion. Every direction you turn, something is happening. A ship creaks as it presses against the dock, ropes pulled tight by weathered hands. A crate cracks open, revealing glimpses of something rare and distant. The ground beneath your feet feels almost unstable, not from weakness, but from the sheer weight of activity pressing into every corner of this place. Here, the river is no longer just a view, it is the engine. You follow its edge and begin to notice how everything orbits around it. Ships do not arrive quietly. They announce themselves with noise, with urgency, with purpose. Crews unload cargo as if time itself is chasing them. You see spices packed tightly in barrels, textiles folded with care, objects you cannot immediately identify, but know must carry immense value. Each item has traveled unimaginable distances, and yet here, it becomes just another transaction in an endless chain. As you move closer, the human element becomes impossible to ignore. Faces from across the world pass by you, some dressed in fine fabrics, others in worn, practical clothing. Their languages blend into a constant murmur, punctuated by sharp negotiations and bursts of laughter or frustration. This is not a single culture. It is a collision of many. You begin to understand that Lisbon is not defined by its borders, but by what flows through them. It absorbs the world, reshapes it, and sends it back out again. The deeper you go, the more intense it becomes. Narrow passages between warehouses open into crowded spaces where deals are struck in seconds. A merchant gestures urgently, coins change hands, and just like that, something rare becomes someone else's property. There is no pause, no stillness. Even those who stand still seem to be waiting for the next movement, the next opportunity. The pace is not accidental, it is survival, ambition, and competition, all compressed into a single environment. Then you notice something else, something less obvious, but far more powerful. This is not chaos, it is control. Beneath the noise and movement lies a system that keeps everything flowing. Goods are not just arriving. They are being directed, sorted, valued. Every action, every exchange feeds into something larger. You begin to see the riverfront not as a collection of moments, but as a living network, one that stretches far beyond what your eyes can capture. You stop for a moment and take it all in: the ships, the voices, the endless motion, and the scale finally settles over you. This is more than trade. This is influence made visible. The decisions made here ripple outward, shaping markets, economies, and lives far beyond this city. Lisbon is not reacting to the world. It is actively shaping it, pulling its threads together and redistributing them with precision. And as the day pushes forward, nothing slows. The ships will keep arriving, the goods will keep moving, and the voices will never fully fade. You realize that what you are witnessing is not a moment, but a constant state of city in perpetual motion, driven by the convergence of people, wealth, and ambition. In this place, everything connects, everything flows, and nothing stands still for long. You leave the noise of the river behind, and almost immediately, the city transforms around you. The streets begin to rise, narrowing as they climb, and the raw energy of trade gives way to something more controlled, more deliberate. Stone facades grow taller, cleaner, more imposing. The air itself feels different, quieter, heavier, as if shaped by rules you cannot see but can clearly feel. This is where Lisbon reveals its authority, not through motion, but through presence. Ahead of you, a vast structure dominates the skyline, its intricate stonework catching the light in a way that feels almost deliberate, as if designed to draw your eyes upward. You approach, and the scale becomes overwhelming. Carved details spiral across its surface, ropes, symbols, patterns that seem to echo the sea itself. This is not just architecture. It is a statement. Wealth has been turned into permanence, into something that cannot be ignored or easily forgotten. As you step closer, you begin to notice the people. Some move with quiet confidence, dressed in fine fabrics that signal their place in the city's hierarchy. Others walk more cautiously, their presence smaller, their movements measured. No one speaks it aloud, but the structure is clear. Power here is not hidden, it is displayed, reinforced in every detail, from the buildings to the behavior of those who pass beneath them. You enter one of the great religious spaces, and the shift is immediate. The outside world fades, replaced by a vast interior where sound softens and light filters through high windows and muted tones. The scent of incense lingers in the air, thick and constant. Candles flicker in long rows, their flames steady, almost disciplined. You watch as people kneel, whispering prayers, their voices barely audible, yet deeply present. This is not casual belief, it is something embedded into the rhythm of life itself. The deeper you move inside, the more you understand that this is not just about faith. It is about order. The rituals, the silence, the structure of the space, they all reinforce a system that extends far beyond these walls. Religion here is not separate from daily life. It defines it. It shapes decisions, influences power, and sets boundaries that few would dare to cross. Stepping back outside, the contrast sharpens. Bells ring from multiple directions, their tones overlapping as they mark time for the entire city. People pause, some briefly, others fully, acknowledging the moment without question. It is automatic, almost instinctive. You realize that time itself is being measured not just by clocks, but by belief. As you continue through the city, the landmarks begin to connect in your mind. Each one, whether a towering church or an expansive square, is part of a larger design. Together, they form a network of influence, guiding how people move, how they think, how they live. This is not accidental growth. It is intentional, shaped by those who hold power and reinforced by those who accept it. And then, for a brief moment, you stop and look around. The beauty is undeniable, the precision, the scale, the artistry, but beneath it lies something more complex. This is a city where faith and authority are intertwined, where hierarchy is visible in every stone and every gesture. It is stable, structured, and deeply rooted. You begin to understand that Lisbon is not just a place of wealth and trade. It is a place where power is carefully constructed and constantly maintained, where belief reinforces control, and where every landmark serves a purpose beyond what it appears. You leave behind the ordered grandeur, and as the streets bend downward and tighten, the city begins to close in around you. The wide avenues give way to narrow passages where sunlight struggles to reach the ground, and the air grows heavier, carrying a mix of salt, smoke, and something far less pleasant. The polished surfaces of wealth disappear, replaced by worn stone and uneven walls that seem to press inward as you walk. This is still Lisbon, still part of the same powerful city, but here, the illusion of perfection begins to crack. The streets twist without warning, forming a maze that feels alive with movement, yet strangely confined. You pass doorways left open to the street, revealing cramped interiors where entire families share a single space. Life does not stay hidden behind walls here, it spills outward. Cooking, washing, arguing, laughing, it all happens in the open, woven into the narrow paths you now follow. Every step brings you closer to the reality that exists beneath the surface of prosperity. You notice the people first. Their clothes are simpler, worn from constant use. Their movements are quicker, more purposeful. There is no idle wandering here. Every action is tied to survival, carrying water, preparing food, selling what little they have. Voices rise and fall in a constant rhythm, louder than before, less restrained. The elegance you saw above the hills feels distant now, almost unreal compared to the urgency of life in these streets. As you move deeper, the city reveals its dependence on those who remain unseen by its grand narrative. A man struggles uphill with a heavy barrel, each step deliberate, his body bent under the weight. A woman balances a basket filled with fish, calling out prices in a voice that cuts through the noise. These are the people who keep the city functioning, yet their presence feels disconnected from the wealth flowing through Lisbon's heart. They exist within the same system, but they do not share in its rewards. The environment itself reinforces the contrast. Water does not flow freely here. It must be carried, rationed, fought for. Waste is not hidden away, it lingers, a constant reminder of the conditions people endure. You hear a sudden shout from above, and instinctively, people shift aside as something is thrown from a window, crashing onto the street below. No one reacts with surprise. This is routine, expected, accepted. And yet, within this hardship, there's a different kind of energy. It is not the calculated movement of trade or the controlled silence of power. It is raw, immediate, and deeply human. Children weave through the crowd, laughter breaking through the tension. Neighbors speak across windows, sharing moments of connection that feel essential in a place like this. Life here is not refined, but it is constant, resilient in a way that cannot be easily broken. You pause in a narrow opening between buildings and look upward. The same sky stretches above you as it did over the grand landmarks, but from here, it feels farther away, partially hidden by the layers of the city rising above. The contrast becomes undeniable. Wealth and hardship are not separated by distance. They exist side by side, divided by elevation, by access, by invisible lines that shape every aspect of daily life. As you continue, the realization settles in. This city, for all its power and beauty, is built on imbalance. The luxury you saw earlier is supported by the labor, the struggle, and the endurance of those here in the shadows. Lisbon is not just a place of extremes, it is a place where those extremes are inseparably connected, where one cannot exist without the other. As you stand between these worlds, the glittering heights and the shadowed streets, you begin to sense something deeper, something not immediately visible, but impossible to ignore. The city moves with confidence, with momentum, but beneath that motion lies a tension that hums quietly through every layer. It is not spoken, not acknowledged openly, yet it is there, woven into the rhythm of daily life. You look back toward the river, where wealth continues to arrive without pause, where ships still crowd the horizon, and everything appears as strong as ever. From a distance, nothing seems fragile. The systems are working, the markets are thriving, the structures of power remain intact. Lisbon presents itself as unshakable, as if its rise is permanent, as if its dominance is guaranteed. But the closer you look, the more that certainty begins to feel like an illusion. The city is built on intensity, constant movement, constant expansion, constant pressure. Every street you have walked, every space you have entered, carries that same underlying force. Wealth flows in, but it does not settle evenly. Power is displayed, but it must be constantly reinforced. Faith binds the people, but it also restricts them. Everything here is operating at its limit, balanced carefully between growth and strain. You begin to notice the small signs, the crowded streets that feel one step away from chaos, the buildings pressed tightly together, rising higher without space to breathe, the dependence on systems that, while impressive, leave little room for failure. Even the river, the city's greatest strength, carries a subtle unpredictability. It gives life, but it also holds a quiet power that cannot be fully controlled. As you move through the city once more, the contrasts you witnessed earlier take on a different meaning. The wealth is no longer just impressive, it feels heavy, concentrated. The hardship is no longer just difficult, it feels stretched, pushed to endure more than it should. These are not separate realities. They are connected pressures, building alongside each other, shaping a city that is both extraordinary and vulnerable at the same time. There is also a psychological weight that lingers. The strong presence of belief, the rigid structures of authority, the expectations placed on every level of society, all of it creates a sense of stillness beneath the movement. Change does not come easily here. The city is proud, deeply rooted in what it has become. And yet, that very stability makes it less prepared for anything unexpected. You pause once more and take in the skyline, the towers, the rooftops, the distant glow of the river, and it becomes clear that this moment cannot last forever. Not because the city is weak, but because it is so tightly constructed, so fully extended in every direction, that even a single disruption would ripple through everything. The realization does not come as fear, but as clarity. You are witnessing a city at its peak, but also at a point of quiet vulnerability. All the elements that make it powerful, its wealth, its density, its dependence on systems and belief, also make it sensitive to forces beyond its control. And still, Lisbon continues as if nothing could ever change. The ships keep arriving, the streets remain full, the bells continue to ring. Life moves forward with the same certainty, the same confidence. But now as you stand within it, you understand something that the city itself does not yet see, that beneath its brilliance, something is building, something inevitable, waiting for a single moment to transform everything.